We as Americans should be proud to serve our country, to help defend it, and to stand tall and say, I am American. That is why I say we should reinstate the mandatory military draft at the age of 18 to 26 for all Americans to serve our country with a minimum of 18 months. Military draft assures that everyone shares the burden of defending the United States regardless of economic class. The Honorable Charles Rangel, a United States Representative of New York, states in his article that only four members, only four, of the 107th Congress, which voted overwhelmingly in favor of war with Iraq and Afghanistan, voted in favor of war with Iraq that had children in the military. By bringing back the mandatory draft, this would help in the decision-making process of our government to send troops into hostile territories. The opposing side, they might say, well, that sounds like I don't have a choice. I would say, you always have a choice. You can choose to go to college still. And upon graduation, you can serve either as an officer or you can do some civil service job. By reinstating the draft, it would ensure more military troops to utilize, in turn, would allow these troops to have fewer tours of duty. A 2008 Army Surgeon General study confirmed that more tours of duty means greater risk of PTSD for our soldiers. 12% of soldiers on their first deployment suffer mental health problems, compared to 27% of those on their third or fourth tour. Moreover, suicide rates among veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars are approximately 3 times higher than in the general population. They might say, the opposing side, why don't you just use the reserve military to help? Again, my point is, our reserve military is what we use for homeland security. That is always considered a civil service job. So you can enlist in a civil service job if you're not willing to go to active duty. Soldiers follow mandatory military service show that they're a more physical and mental better after service. Let me say that again. Soldiers following mandatory military service show that they are more physically and mentally better after service. A study that published by the International Society for Traumatic Stress Studies shows that soldiers returning from a mandatory 18-month enlistment have less results from PTSD symptoms. Military members that volunteer in the United States for 4 years or longer serve longer tours of duty and suffer from PTSD symptoms more often. The opposing side, they would come back and state, well, what do you say that the American people really have in the conception or conduct of wars we are being asked to participate in or sacrifice for? Well, that's a great question for someone that's never served, isn't it? That is exactly why I say bring back the mandatory draft. We have lost unity of our country and beliefs. And if you look back to World War II, people of all society classes, look at Jimmy Stewart, look at these famous actors that volunteered to go fly to protect our country. Look at some of the professional NFL players that have volunteered to go fight for our country. These are true Americans that are believing in our country to keep us safe, to keep us strong. We have lost that. We have lost respect of others. Bringing back the military draft will build unity and promote a common vision for our country. Stephen Joel Trachtenberg, president and professor of public administration of the George Washington University, says in his article that our military needs a more diverse people of all classes to make our military strong again. He further goes on to say most of us are not particularly sympathetic to the military, the needs, because we are ignorant of what the military does and how it goes about doing it. He talks about shared burdens. What is that? Like when politicians and academics and journalists who tend to come from more privileged parts of society have no stake in the military. They have no stake. It becomes lopsided and it's ill understood. Speaking as a parent, I would like my sons, like everyone else's children, to make a material contribution to our society and to share the burden with people they might never otherwise know. Speaking as a citizen, I think it would foster the national cohesion that the older ones of us remember. And speaking as a former military Marine, I think there might be some fascination opportunities for national service and retirement. Service should not be a monopoly of the young. So I ask you, why don't you stand up as American and be proud for our country? Stand up and serve our country instead of sitting back and taking every day. Thank you.